Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday evening here at B'nai Baruch Education Center. Now, this week we're going to look at what we studied on Saturday with the main group, and you can ask questions as usual. Once again, just a friendly reminder, guys, that these lessons on Tuesday we're doing is not, these lessons are not for beginners. So if you feel like you just dropped in from nowhere and you feel like you'd like to take it from the beginning, you can watch earlier lessons, starting from lesson 1, semester 1, 2, and 3, or even better, you can register to our CabU Academy at Kabbalah.info. If you go there, you can register to the CabU Academy. You can study with people from all around the world, like-minded people, and advance in the wisdom of Kabbalah. All right, so this Tuesday evening is for a group of people that are always studying with us, who are already studying and who have been studying for a while. And so we're just keeping this rhythm of once a week. So we're going to study today the approach to studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, and we're going to read selected excerpts as usual. And as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. So let's get smashing. The necessity to study the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is from the introduction to the study of the 10 Sephirot, letter or item number 155. Why then did the Kabbalists obligate every person to study the wisdom of Kabbalah? Indeed, there's a great thing about it, which should be publicized. There's a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah, although they do not understand what they're learning. Through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they're learning, they awaken upon themselves the lights that surround their souls. All right, so let's read that again. Item number 155 from Introduction to the Study of the 10 Sephirot, selected excerpts. Item 1. Why then did the Kabbalists obligate every person to study wisdom of Kabbalah? Indeed, there's a great thing about it, which should be publicized. There's a wonderful, invaluable remedy to those who engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah, although they do not understand what they're learning. Through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they're learning, they awaken upon themselves the lights that surround their souls. Now, seriously, this is something we really got to be, we really got to put a bit of emphasis on. Why would the Kabbalists, it says here obligate us, but obviously they're not obligating anyone. Obligating means that telling people the necessity to study it. If we look at our lives in the 21st century, the whole world is a big mess. We've got the coronavirus. Every country is now arming themselves to the teeth. Anything can happen at any time. And there are a lot of, traumatic things that we're going through in life. Recently, the coronavirus taking its toll in India, in Brazil, also still in Europe. There are lockdowns. So this whole world is, it's a bit of a frying pan, and we're all getting fried in it. So the Kabbalists are really advising when they say obligating. They're not going to go and force anyone to do anything. Obviously, you can't. But they're just telling humanity that the wisdom of Kabbalah is really a wisdom that can answer anyone's question about life. Why we're born, why we're created, why there's suffering, why we can't be happy, or how can we be happy? What does it mean to be happy? What does it mean to live this limited life in a fulfilled way? So there are a lot of questions about our life, including the point. What is the point? Because most of the time we look at our lives and it's like pointless, So the Kabbalists are very helpful kind of guys. And what they want to do is they want to advise us, give us the recommendation to study so that we can understand our lives, understand what we're going through, why we're going through stuff. Because if we don't understand what we're going through, we become an emotional wreck, because life is affecting our emotions. And when our emotions can't reconcile, when our mind cannot reconcile with our emotions, we go nuts. So this is why humanity is going through all kinds of problems, including depression, drugs, violence as well. I mean, why do people turn violent, right? Because they have this anger in them due to the lack of understanding of life, due to lack of understanding about what's going on in life. Why are we going through these things? What's going on? So all of these things are factors really that should prompt us to look deeper into life. And the wisdom of Kabbalah is the wisdom that actually answers all these questions. So it's well worth learning. And to study the approach to the learning, as it says in this item, is, the wisdom of Kabbalah is talking about how man can understand the whole of reality. And from our current perspective, well, we don't understand life, right? So we want to come to a higher level where we can understand life. We can look at life from a higher level, like kind of like out of the box, and evaluate it correctly. Okay. So in order for us to do that, what we have to do is read and study. And despite the fact that we don't really understand what it means to step out of the box, what it means to step out of our nature and look at life from a different perspective, we don't understand all these things. However, though, because, as you know from previous lessons, we are a desire to receive. So when we want something and we want to kind of like push ourselves to a higher level, life assists us. Now, we see this in children as well. And sometimes also, if you work really hard at something, you get these eureka moments when you go, that's what it was, right? Why? Because you kind of accumulated effort, and all of a sudden you went just over the tipping point, and you begin to understand the concept. All of a sudden it occurs to you what it is, like Newton having that apple fall on his head. So there are times in life when you're forcing yourself, pushing yourself to do something, to want something, to attain something, and you're working towards that attainment, which is growing your desire. And there comes a time when that desire becomes fulfilled. And that's what the whole process is. Just like children are always running around with their desire to grow up, we also, when we're constantly studying, well, when I say constantly, obviously, within our life, having a study framework, not 24/7, all right? We have a study framework, so we're studying, and the whole idea is try to understand how we can free ourselves from an egoistic approach and start looking at things from an altruistic approach, because this egoistic approach to life and how we live our lives through our egoistic desire to receive has just brought us nothing but grief, and we can see that on the whole of the planet. So in order for us to make that change, we have to want to make that change. So studying with the desire to make that change is the whole trick. And that is the whole trick because that is how it is in the laws of nature. Okay. All right. So let's read item number 2. This is from Baal Stam, Introduction to From the Mouth of a Sage. You can therefore see the utter necessity for anyone, whomever he may be, to engage in the internality of the Torah and its secrets. Without it, the intention of creation will not be completed in man. This is the reason that we reincarnate generation after generation to our current generation, which is the residue of the souls upon which the intention of creation has not been completed, as they did not attain the secrets of the Torah in past generations. So as you can see, humanity is going through this kind of grinder, and we're being grinded every generation more and more and more. And as we see, with the development of generations, we find that there's a necessity to understand life. There's a necessity to get ourselves out of this, this spinning wheel that we're running inside like a rat. And the way to get out of it is actually studying the secrets of the Torah. Now, the secrets of the Torah are known as the wisdom of Kabbalah, because the wisdom of Kabbalah talks about a person's inner worlds and inner sensations, that is, right? What I'm feeling inside and how I see world through a different perspective. And everything, as you will recall from the perception of reality lesson in our first semester, you'll recall that everything is perceived inside of man. So we are actually just a vessel designed to feel everything within itself. So the more we're in this within ourself kind of state, what really happens is we don't have the opportunity to widen our horizon. So studying the wisdom of Kabbalah actually allows us to discover the secrets of the Torah. For example, the perception of reality, right? Scientists are saying now that we receive, we perceive a reality within ourselves. So right now, science is having issues and dramas defining the outside world. Well, imagine telling that and writing that to people thousands of years ago. I mean, how could you even explain that the whole of perception, the whole of perception of reality is inside you? Imagine explaining that to a person a few thousand years ago. There's just no way, right? So Kabbalists were always few in numbers. They were always few. And the reason is, you need your dot in the heart to awaken. You need a strong desire to study it, because it's way beyond anybody's imagination. So this is why the wisdom of Kabbalah also for centuries have been, given all kinds of names, like magic or something mystical, or they're talking about God knows what. And that's just because the primitive person on the street doesn't understand. The primitive person today in the 21st century still doesn't understand the perception of reality being inside him or herself. So imagine all that. So no wonder the wisdom of Kabbalah always had this kind of weird image, and it was associated with all kinds of stuff in history. So what I'm trying to basically say is this, that the whole of humanity is going through cycles, and the cycles are actually for our development. And if we don't take the reins of development into our own hands, we're just going to be suffering more and more. So the Kabbalists are saying, listen, the best way to go about it is, doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you are, what your religion, color, race, country is, doesn't matter. If you want to understand life, you've got to learn the secrets of life. And the secrets of life is actually understanding the laws of nature and adapting ourselves to the laws of nature. And that means kind of making a few adjustments in ourselves to change ourselves. Just like in life as well, right? Sometimes we see the necessity to change things, right? For example, I don't know, if I want to give up with a bad habit, right? So suppose I like smoking, and the doctor says, you've got to give this up, okay? Otherwise, it's going to end up dead. So what happens? I take the doctor's advice, and I say, okay, I'm not going to smoke anymore, and I want to live a few extra years, right? In the 21st century, that's how it is. So that's one thing. So the same thing here. If we begin to understand our nature, things that we didn't see about ourselves before, then we can understand the necessity to change these things inside of us. So we can tweak with our nature through the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And that this tweaking will actually adapt us more and more to the laws of nature. And that will actually bring balance, because the first law in nature is balance. And you're probably wondering why we're getting all these natural disasters, viruses, and so on. And a lot of people think, viruses are like, some kind of conspiracy theory. But think about it for a moment, right? We as humanity have literally knocked the planet out of its balance. We've really knocked and whacked it out of balance. So, well, how do you think nature is going to respond? Nature is just going to respond according to laws of nature. It's just going to try to put us in balance. So how do you put the world into balance? Well, you look at who is unbalanced and you slap them in the wrist. So a coronavirus, although a lot of people say it's human-made or it's bat-made, human-made, it doesn't really matter who made it. First of all, there's no proof that it was human-made. Second of all, even if there was proof that it is human-made, what's the possibility of evaluating it separate from nature? We are included in nature. We live on this planet. So humans, animals, plants, and the still level are an integral, interdependent levels of nature. So we're not outside of nature, and as humanity, we'd like to think we're above nature, but nature is giving us, as you can see, a huge slap in the face right now. and we're not above nature. It's showing us that, you know what, I can get rid of all of humanity and I, nature, will still be around. That's what life is telling us. Nature is telling us that we have to change ourselves. We have to adapt ourselves to the laws of nature. So learning the secrets of the Torah is actually learning the essence of life. All right, if you want to give it a 21st century definition, that is how it is. Okay. Are there any questions? Just one. Okay, let's see where we're at. Patricia is asking, is dissemination always the cure for dealing with blows? Well, it does help. It does help because it raises awareness, right? At the end of the day, what is dissemination? Dissemination is education, actually. Right. So, for example, when I first came to the wisdom of Kabbalah, I didn't know anything about the wisdom of Kabbalah. I didn't know anything about my life. So all of a sudden, I was wondering about the meaning of life. So I started learning. And how was it possible for me to learn? Well, it was possible for me to learn because somebody wrote books. Somebody translated those books to English. Somebody was giving a lesson. The Rav was giving a lesson. So there was a person I could listen to. There were books I could read. And there were books that I could, use in order to make sense of what's going on with my life. So obviously, when you come and study these things, it raises your awareness. And the minute your awareness raises it, actually, you begin to see that you also impact the people around you, and their awareness levels are all of a sudden going up as well. So there's this nice chain effect, like this domino effect, that as one person develops, it kind of like helps everybody else develop as well. And dissemination really helps in that. And I actually do a lot of it myself. I wish I could do more, actually. If I wasn't a bit lazy, I'd do a bit more for sure. Like giving lessons, also not just that, but I write articles as well. I translate lessons. So all kinds of things. We're actually going to start a new course for Africa again on Tuesday evenings. So pretty soon we'll start taking those lessons again, the first, second, and third semesters, so we can have a new group for Africa as well. We already made a really nice group out of Africa with our efforts. So hopefully we'll have some new friends coming along. So as life goes forward, on the one hand, life is pressuring us, it's pushing us and really, pushing us and pressuring us to ask about the meaning of life. And also, even if we don't, bluntly ask that question, with everything that we go through in life, what happens is we go through these inner changes and discernments, even though we're not really aware of it, right? So every time I live something during the day, or when I'm going through, I don't know, whatever humanity goes through, a trauma, happiness, sadness, all kinds of emotions that we go through, they impact our development. They really make little tweaks and changes here and there within us. And because we've been really traumatized over the past year with this COVID-19, we'll see that soon a lot of people will just will want to just step back from life, just take a step back, just sit down and don't do anything. We're going to see a lot of people with lack of desire to do anything. And that's actually quite right. I mean, if we ask ourselves the question, what are we running around for? Right? There's no real answer to it. So a lot of people will be thinking about that, will be contemplating what they're doing with their lives. And all of this is actually helped with dissemination, because when a person's asking these questions and searching, it's really good to find something that answers your questions. Otherwise, you're completely lost. Imagine searching and not finding any answer for anything. So dissemination is actually a great help for the whole of humanity. Right, yeah. Isn't teaching the class dissemination? Yeah, well, this is also kind of dissemination. But most of the students here on this Tuesday evening session are pretty much, they know us. They're probably in a group. They're probably connected with us somehow. So they're probably already in the loop. So these Tuesday evening sessions that we do are really actually a way of kind of how can I say it? If there are some students, for example, that feel like they can't, be too intense, or they just want to stick their head in once a week and listen to something about the wisdom of Kabbalah or spirituality, so that they've got this once a week kind of framework. And now when we, pretty soon, like I said a minute ago, we're going to start once again the lessons for Africa over this YouTube channel on Tuesday evenings. That'll be dissemination as well, because there'll be new people, and there'll be people with questions. So we'll also have that lesson translated to another language as well. I think it's going to be translated to Somali or some other African languages as well. So those are considered dissemination as well. But dissemination also could be anything, even sharing something in social media. That's also dissemination as well. All right, so let's move forward a little bit. I hope you guys are enjoying Tuesday evenings as much as I am. I'm actually looking forward to Tuesday evenings. It also gives me an opportunity to really go over the material as well. Kind of keeps me and helps me to also, be more focused on the study as well. So, Baal Islam, the teaching of the Kabbalah and its essence. Since the whole of the wisdom of Kabbalah speaks of the revelation of the Creator, naturally there is none more successful teaching for its task. This is what the Kabbalists aimed for, to arrange it so it is suitable for studying. And so they studied in it until the time of concealment. However, this was only for a certain time and not forever. As it is written in the Zohar, this wisdom is destined to be revealed at the end of days, and even to children. So there you go. The wisdom of Kabbalah is destined to be revealed, and they wrote about it 2,000 years ago. Imagine that. Why? Because obviously Kabbalists are foreseeing the future, where the world is going, how the desire to receive its development, and what kind of helplessness humanity will get to, why they will need this wisdom. So all these questions about the future and the necessity to understand life and to work towards understanding life for a new kind of existence, or a higher level of existence, was all part of the wisdom of Kabbalah. So, imagine a Kabbalist. He's already someone who's out of his nature, who's living in a different perception of reality. And from that different perception of reality, you can see the cause and consequence of creation. So you immediately begin to understand how the world is going to unravel itself, and when it's going to unravel itself as well. So all these years, for centuries, the wisdom of Kabbalah was really a secret, because there was nobody to really learn it, and there wasn't anyone to teach it to, because there wasn't really the necessity for humanity to learn such a thing. Only in our generation, the 21st century, on the one hand, we look at life and we pretty much have everything in life. And on the other hand, we're just disappointed with life. We're just not happy with life. So these two contradictory states are really causing a lot of dilemma for humanity. And so the wisdom of Kabbalah comes in and says, well, we're glad you're kind of in this understanding, and now we can bring a solution to the situation. This is why the 21st century is actually really the beginning of the last generation, because we're in a global state where everybody feels like we're all on the same boat. On the one hand, we're all on the same boat. On the other hand, we can't get along with each other, as you can see with all the countries now in conflict with each other. So it's a bit of a drama. It's a bit of a mess. But this drama and mess was necessary. And only through dramas and problems and pressures, all kinds of dramatic situations, a person can really grow, ask questions, and start to look for the truth. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is destined, like they say, to be revealed, and it is. Imagine all the books are now on the shelves. There are people who are teaching it. There's a group who's studying it, and this whole world group that we call Bnei Baruch is really dedicated to teaching to anyone who wants to learn what it means to actually develop from this animate level of nature into this higher level of perception called human. Because we, in our bodily life, we're not called human. This bodily life is an animal, and it has a shelf life. It's going to end up dead. And human means that I'm actually living in a higher level of consciousness, independent from the existence of my material corporeal body. So that is what we need to attain. And that's what the whole wisdom of Kabbalah is all about. And that's what that's why he defined it as the revelation of the Creator. That's what the whole wisdom is talking about. Kabbalah speaks of the revelation of the Creator. And that's it, basically. And to reveal anything in life, we have to be in equivalence of form. So in order to be in equivalence of form, to discover the force behind nature, I have to actually adapt myself to nature, which is actually what I was talking about before. Humanity has to find a way to adapt itself to the laws of nature. And only then, by this equivalence of form, when two things are really equivalent, you can get a sensation, feeling, and an understanding of the state you're in. So these things are all very equally important and go hand in hand. Okay. Let's read item number 4. Man's primary work is to examine the greatness of the Creator. That is, one should delve in books that speak of the greatness of the Creator, and while delving, one should depict oneself to what extent our sages, the Tanaim and Amoraim, felt the greatness of the Creator. One should pray to the Creator to shine so he may feel his greatness, so he can subdue his heart and annul before the Creator, and not follow the currents of the world, which is pursuing only the satisfaction of beastly lusts. But that the Creator will open his eyes so he may engage all his life in Torah and work, and in all your ways know him. That is, even when engaging in corporeal matters, it will be for the purpose of holiness as well. So there are a few things we need to clarify here, right? Man's primary work, obviously when it's talking about man, we're talking about humans, man or woman. We're not talking about sexes here, everybody in reality. The primary work is to examine the greatness of the Creator. Now, so our job, right, the purpose of our creation, the reason why we've been created is to actually examine the greatness of the Creator. Now, when it's talking about the greatness of the Creator, we should not be thinking about something like Father Christmas up there on the clouds or whatever. The Creator is the force of love and bestowal. So this love and bestowal is what I have to discover. This is what I need to investigate, because if I attain this form of love and bestowal, then I can actually get into that higher level of perception. Now, remember, we define our friends also according to their personalities, right? We say he's a good person, bad person, stingy person, or whatever. Same here. A person really defines the Creator according to the sensation he gets from that relationship he has with the Creator. So investigating the Creator is actually investigating his approach to us, his relationship towards us. That's what we're really investigating. Because if we begin to investigate that and understand why he does what he does, then our life becomes much easier, doesn't it? So what we need to do is then study, right? Just like studying any science, like physics, chemistry, biology, we need to study the wisdom of Kabbalah so we can understand how the Creator created life, and everything that happens in life is like his conversation with us. So how do I decipher this life to understand his language? Because if I don't, it's all Chinese. And that's going to be pretty tough if you're not Chinese. You know what I mean? So life has its own language, and we've got to really adapt ourselves, learn the language, and from that language, kind of rearrange how we relate to life. Okay. Let's take a look at item number 5. This is from Baal Islam's letter number 38. I will tell you as I heard from the Admor of Kalshin. In earlier times, one had to first obtain all 7 external teachings, called the 7 maidens that serve the king's daughter, as well as terrible mortification. And yet, not many gained favor in the eyes of the Creator. But since we have been rewarded with the teachings of the Ari and the work ways of the Baal Shem Tov, it's truly possible for anyone, and the above preparations are no longer necessary. So previously, in previous generations, if you want to learn the wisdom of Kabbalah, that was it. You needed to go through some heavy testing by your teachers. You need to know all the 7 wisdoms, all kinds of sciences and so on, plus mortification. This is what, sometimes mortification, you see it in religion. And in the previous generations, mortification was like for Kabbalists as well. It's like a nightmare. Imagine having everything restricted in your life. But now in the 21st century, that's not on, because our ego is so developed, nobody's going to be able to use those techniques to move forward in life. Okay, so this is why the Kabbalists, since the time of the Ari, are saying, well, look, we're a new generation. The new generation has to study in a different way. So Ari rearranged all the Kabbalistic texts in a more modern kind of way, and Baal Shem Tov taught on how to apply it. So you got the scientific approach, plus you've got the applicable, the applied approach by Baal Shem Tov. So you got these 2 characters, great Kabbalists, who really arranged and organized everything for us. And also Baal Islam and Rabash, they've done a great job of bringing those sources to a level where we can actually interact with. Otherwise, there's no way. I mean, we're having problems, understanding books from 100 years ago. Imagine trying to read these books and methods from 500 years, 600 years ago. It would have been absolutely impossible to understand what they're talking about. So Baal Islam rearranged all these books and sources for us, and also wrote a lot of articles. Same with Rabash as well. They wrote a lot of articles to explain to a new student how he should relate to the study, how to approach the wisdom of Kabbalah, how to do it, how to study, what to do, how to do all kinds of stuff. So all of these things kind of like now have paved the way for us to study the wisdom of Kabbalah. Otherwise, we wouldn't have really had a chance. And also, once again, here, what's important that we need to understand is the 21st century. Why is it accessible now to everyone? Because the generation is kind of ready. So in previous generations, also, they didn't really care about spirituality. I mean, the guy didn't know if he was going to be butchered the next day, or if he was going to have a piece of bread to eat the next day. Everything was like hanging on a string for the most of society. So now in our century, in the 21st century, when we look at life and the modern life of humanity, we can see that this whole system that we built for ourselves and that we're living in, kind of, the wheels are kind of turning somehow, right? And on top of that, now we have an opportunity to, add spirituality, add spiritual development, because despite the fact that we've developed a lot of things, we're still not happy. We're still feeling empty inside. So this emptiness has to be fulfilled. We have to discover with how and what. And this is what the wisdom of Kabbalah is all about. So we're in a ripe generation where people are more, questioning, more worried about the meaning of life. Okie. I think we've got another question here. Got a question from P. Green. Could we say there is revelation of the greatness of the Creator and revelation of the Creator? can we say there is revelation of the greatness of the Creator and the revelation of the Creator? Well, we can only say it if somebody is feeling that. You see, in order for us to feel the greatness of the Creator, in order for us to feel the greatness of anything or anyone, I have to have a relationship with that person or with that thing. So if I feel like I've got a great friend, it means I've got a friend who I've experienced a relationship when I can say, wow, that friend is a great friend. So without really feeling, perceiving, and understanding the Creator, understanding the whole structure of reality, like why he did what he did and why he was right in doing so the way that he did, and all these things need to be really clear for a person and understood from the perspective of the Creator. Then he can really say, wow, the Creator is great. Okay. Until that happens, until a person perceives the Creator, there's really nothing to talk about the Creator, simply because it'll just be nonsense. And this is what we really, mostly get in religions. A lot of stuff is nonsense. For the 21st century person, if you go through religious stuff, you think this is just nonsense. Why? Because there's no basis there's nothing you can base yourself on in order to bring you to some kind of clarification or reconciliation about what's happening in life. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is a specific approach where a person needs to make an alteration, change within, and through that alteration and change within, he or she can actually then perceive things from the eyes of the Creator. And a good example for this is, because we've got this in our reality as well, is like when we're kids, right? When we're children and we're growing up, we don't really understand our parents, and they have all these demands from us as we grow up, older and older and older, and they request that we become more responsible. You got to go out and work and all this kind of stuff, and all this demand that builds up as we grow up allows us then to understand what our parents really did for us after we become parents, because they pushed us and shoved us so that we could stand up on our own 2 feet. It wasn't a very pleasant experience, you might say, going to school, do your homework, do your bed, whatever, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you kind of grow up from all these little, unpleasant things, let's say, right? So, and then once you become a parent yourself as well, and then you think to yourself, oh my God, Dad did this to me and that, he screamed at me for that one. Yeah, whoa, and he was actually right. Why? Because now I'm a dad. I understand why he kind of pushed me to do things in life. Because otherwise, there's no chance that you can really stand up on your own 2 feet. And then you take that example, you begin to understand, because you see the same thing with your kids as well. So you begin to develop this feeling and understanding that you need these kids to grow up. They need to understand the world. They need to have a profession, a job, an understanding about life, what to do, how to do, all this kind of stuff. Because otherwise, they're not going to grow up and be able to look after themselves. So the same thing with the Creator, right? So the Creator is also trying to grow us up. He's trying to raise us, and he's trying to raise us to his level, just like parents are trying to raise us to their level. So once we can begin to see things from the perspective of the Creator and understand why we went through certain things in life, until we get to that level, it's really hard to write. It's really hard, impossible really, to talk about the greatness of the Creator. But at our level, when a person hasn't attained spirituality, there is this feeling and sensation of gratitude when he comes to the wisdom of Kabbalah, where he feels like, or she feels like, that they've kind of found answers to their questions. And this kind of brings a bit of relief to a person. And this relief, the sensation of relief, is really important. And if a person can really distinguish that feeling, kind of make note of it, he or she begins to understand that this is what they were looking for. And after that, a person actually sticks around, starts studying, and starts moving forward and forward and forward. And in time, there is a sensation and feeling that a person feels gratitude to the Creator. And this it's kind of, because it's not clear yet to a person, but it's kind of giving a person the appreciation of the Creator's greatness, because after all the things that you've been through in life, the Creator was actually preparing you for this moment. And this begins to kind of it's just like an aha moment, that everything you went through in life and everything, and there was absolutely nothing redundant. Everything had a specific purpose. Everything you went through, felt, experienced was just so that you could come to this moment and click with this moment. So that also gives you this sensation of the greatness of the Creator. But like I said, that's kind of like with gratitude kind of bundled up and mixed into one. I don't know if I managed to explain it right, but if not, ask again in a different way. I'll try my best. Patricia is asking, what does it mean, terrible mortification? Well, in the old days, not so good old days, but in the old days, Kabbalists, in order to go above their desire to receive for themselves, had to restrict their desire to receive completely. So their life was kind of quite, I have to say, in 21st century terms, horrible. They were just restricting themselves in every kind of way. Their life was really limited. They were pretty poor. You'd never know if you were going to have something to eat that day or not. Pretty bad. Kind of like a rough situation to live in. Kind of like complete nullification and the non-use of all your desires. Imagine not using any of your desires. So it's quite horrible. But that is no longer relevant for us in our 21st century, because our egoism is so big, nobody would actually do it, and they don't need to either. You can't actually correct yourself by going through mortifications anymore. If a person did try to do that, they'll just be increasing their egoism even more because of the increase in pride of what they're doing. You'll actually see that pride. It's a really bad, filthy pride that you get to witness with the religious. Okay, so let's read another one and see where we're at. Let's do number 6 from the book, The Gates of Ramhal. The Creator is commanding us to know His guidance, and we do want to know what this guidance teaches us. What this guidance teaches us is but the wisdom of truth, which is delving in His godliness. It follows that we undoubtedly see it as mandatory to learn the wisdom of truth. So the Creator is commanding us to know His guidance. Obviously, none of us are feeling like the Creator is coming down from the skies and saying, I am now ordering you to learn the wisdom of truth. Okay, so nobody's actually feeling that. But what we are feeling is life. And life's pressures, right? So like I said, life is like a conversation between the Creator and the created being. So the more we're kind of attuned to this conversation, the less suffering we'll go through. And if we're not, we're going to go through more dramas. And like I said, this is how the whole of humanity is living right now. going through dramas and all kinds of problems. So when he's saying the Creator is commanding us, he's actually advising us through life to seek and find out the truth. This is why it's called the wisdom of truth. We want to know why we're created, what for, what do you want from us? So all this is called truth. And this is why a person can't really settle for all these kind of stories and all these kind of, I don't know, Hollywood movie kind of style beliefs. Okay, we just can't. So we have to kind of come to terms with life. We have to come to terms with reality. And this is why the wisdom of truth is called the wisdom of Kabbalah, because it really explains to us everything about our nature. I mean, think about it. Until somebody explained to us that we are an egoistic desire to receive pleasure for ourselves with no consideration for anyone, none of us would have even thought of such a definition. Because everybody thinks they're okay. I mean, even if somebody has some bad traits, they say, well, I've got a few bad traits here and there, but hey, nobody's perfect, right? So everybody's got some kind of an excuse for their bad behavior. But the wisdom of Kabbalah is straightforward. So the minute you start studying and you begin to understand the laws of nature, how things are working, and how your nature is built and integrated into life, then obviously all of these things starts to make sense. Then you begin to see that you're actually learning the truth, and everything we've learned in school starts to look like, a big lie. Okay, this is why we don't use the stuff we've learned in school much when we go into real life. But that process actually helps us to learn new things in life, because we've kind of gotten used to learning something. Okie dokie. So let's see where we're at. Okay. Question from Flobella. Mutlu, can I make a selfish question? I love Pticha and being in the live reading of the Zohar about the Genesis and Genesis 2, Bet, and really enjoyed it. The question is, what are the animals described there? The lion, bull, and the vulture. Are they the lights? Well, animals are just vessels. Okay, when we're talking about animals, when we're talking about plants, when we're talking about the land, like the land of Israel, the land of Babylon or Egypt, all these things in creation, they're just talking about our desire to receive, really. And animals are also a desire to receive. And there are all kinds of desires inside of us, not just animals as well. Imagine all the varieties of plants, all the varieties of planets, stars. Imagine the whole of reality. They're all integrated into the desire to receive. So they're the vessels, okay? The desire to receive. They are parts of the desire to receive. The light is what fulfills the vessel. So we have all kinds of desires, and the pleasure that fulfills the desire is the light. We could actually say the light is the pleasure. You can also say the light is the creator. But that's also pleasure as well, because we get pleasure from being together with our loved ones, right? So same with the creator. When a person has a connection with the creator, being with the creator is pleasure. So that's also called light. So the light is actually the creator, and the vessel, the desire to receive, is the created being. That's us. And as we connect, then we begin to fulfill those vessels with the light, with the presence of the creator, or with the ability to be like the creator as well. Because at the end of the day, we have to receive pleasure. And light is also us receiving pleasure from bestowing to others. That's also called light. But the animate, the vegetative, the still level, they're all desires to receive, parts of our desire to receive. of that big vessel. All right, dear and beloved friends. So now we're going to come to an end for this Tuesday evening. Now, by the way, we're going to have soon, I don't know the date yet, but Tuesday lessons, we're going to start new semesters, semester 1, 2, 3, like I said, for some of our friends in Africa. And if you have any new friends or any friends who are new to Kabbalah or new to the wisdom of Kabbalah and they'd like to listen or they'd be interested in the wisdom of Kabbalah, they can also come and watch and carry on. But like I said, your best option really is also, if you're interested and if you want to study with like-minded people, go to Kabbalah.info, and there you can click on the KabU Academy, where you could register as well, or your friends can register as well. All right. In the interim, it's been another lovely Tuesday evening on my behalf anyway, and I hope you guys liked it too. And hopefully we'll see each other again next week. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.